So this is a gentle yoga class. We may or may not wind up using some props, but I think we're going to probably use the strap. I'm pretty sure that that's going to work out. So if you have a yoga strap, get that. If you don't have a yoga strap, you can use anything that would just lengthen your arm, a scarf or a towel, a dog leash, if one of those is handy. If you have some yoga blocks, one or two yoga blocks might be helpful. And then a blanket or some pillows is always a nice addition as well. So you can use blankets and pillows to help support body parts, or to, that might be a little tender or sore today. Or we're going to start out here with a little pose that is that the blanket is useful for. So if you happen to have some blankets nearby, you're going to take your blanket and fold it up so that you've got, or you can roll it, but you want just a long kind of skinny rectangle, and that's going to go down the length of our spine. Now, in the event that you think to yourself, I love this so much, I want to do it every day, there are actually yoga props, a yoga prop that's made for this purpose exactly, and that's a little skinny bolster, a long pillow that's quite firm, called a pranayama bolster. So in the event that you would like to purchase one of those, and you have the means to do so, look for pranayama bolster at your favorite yoga site for purchasing things. But in any case, if you don't have that, no worries, you're just going to fold up a blanket. So I have my blanket folded into quarters and then into third from there. So I've got a nice long rectangle. And what I like about the blanket is you can kind of fold the end up so you have a little bit more head support. But if you need more head support beyond that, you can add that underneath the blanket. Okay, so there's a couple of leg positions. So first, get yourself organized on the blanket and then decide how far down the blanket should go. I like mine to stop about where my ribs stop, so that my lumbar spine doesn't really have any blanket under it. Some people like the blanket to go right to the edge of the sacrum, so you can experiment and see what's better for you. Again, you can add a little support for your head by just creating a little wrinkle and a pillow there. Now the shoulders are going to drop over the edge of the blanket because the blanket's down the middle of our spine, and that's really what we're trying to do. So you can snuggle your shoulder blades in. I like my arms to stay relatively close to the body. You could also take them out wider or even over your head to get a bigger stretch in the larger chest muscles. To do a little bit more for the shoulder itself, keeping the arms, not hugging them up against you, but just letting them sort of fall in their more natural spacing away from your body would be about right. Now, this position I'm doing with my legs is called constructive rest. The feet are resting on the floor so that it's almost sort of resembles a bridge pose setup, but a little bit softer. So with the bridge pose, we want the feet in closer so that we have some power to lift the hips. But with this pose, the feet are a little bit further out so that the legs are just very stable and very comfortably arranged. You might want your feet a little on the wider side so the knees lean in, or somewhere in the middle. You can also straighten your legs all the way out. For me, that pulls me into a little bit more of, it's like a baby fish pose. So there's a little bit more of a feeling of my rib cage lifting. So if you like that slightly deeper or slightly more exaggerated back bendy shape, then the straighter legs might be for you. And then the last one, which is sort of in the middle but has a different level of spiciness, is to do a butterfly shape with the legs, feet together, knees open. Then the inner thighs get a bit of a stretchiness, so you may decide to put a little support under your knees. So just pick one of those three. I'm liking the straight legs today, so I'm going with that one. Make any adjustments you need to with your upper body, and then just pause for a moment and breathe. What laying over the blanket helps do is it helps kind of reset the shoulder. So if you have spent time either leaning over a desk or a computer or a steering wheel or anything like that. So you take a really long drive, for example, and your arms are held forward over the steering wheel. Or you're a hairdresser, and so your arms are held forward all the time for your job. Or maybe you work at a computer a lot, so that you wind up with your arms forward. So that any of those kinds of things are going to potentially cause the arm bone to kind of rotate forward in the socket and draw the shoulder blade off the back. Or you could just simply sleep in such a way that you curl up in a little ball with the shoulders rolling forward. So in any of those instances, or just life in general, this is a nice way to reset the shoulder. So the arm bone is allowed to drop backwards. The stabilizer muscle in the front of the chest that tightens up when we have the arms held forward a long time helps let go. And then the shoulder stabilizers in the back, the rotator cuff muscles, are allowed to adjust the shoulder blade down deeper into the back. So if you have any of those things that are true for you, this is a great practice, this little pose here, to do every day. Just to give yourself a chance to sort of reset the shoulders. We're going to stay with it for about 4 or 5 more breaths. When your inhale finds you the next time, you can bring your legs into whatever kind of more neutral shape feels appropriate, and then roll yourself over to one side and just slip the blanket out. So we're going to come back to the blanket later, but for now, we can just let ourselves relax into the shape that's sort of left behind by the blanket. So once you're back on your back, you might feel like a little impression that was left behind. Or it might feel like it would be really nice to bring the knees up into your chest and rock a little on your back. Or do some little windshield wipers. And just notice if it does feel kind of, ooh, the sun's out. Notice if it does feel a little bit different in your shoulders, or is there a kind of sense that the shoulders have relaxed a little bit. Now we're going to do a bunch of stuff for our shoulders in just a moment, but we're going to start with this position with the legs where it sort of is like a figure 4, or like a pigeon. So you're going to put one foot on the floor. I have my right foot on the floor, and then my left ankle is on top of my right thigh. So you could do it either right leg first or left leg first, whichever you prefer. And we're going to take a moment and just pause there. And you'll notice, just notice the hips. If there's any sense that there's a problem or there's a hip socket issue, you might decide to either slide the bottom leg a little further out, or you can bring the legs closer together or farther apart. So the ankle over top could cause some knee trouble, whereas if you put the knee closer to the thigh, that might take care of that problem. So just adjust the legs, make sure the hips feel okay, the knees feel okay. Then we're going to do a couple of different movements. So we're going to start with a curl. You're going to bring your hands behind your head, press your head back into your hands. Take a nice big breath in, and as you exhale, let all that air come out and curl your shoulders up off the floor a little bit. Leave your head nicely planted. Come on back down. And now we're going to do a twist. So we're going to bring the knee towards the center and the elbow towards the knee, curling up to the side. So straight down the middle, and then the twist. Straight down the middle, and then the twist. Good, we'll do that twice more. Just work, curl on your exhale, inhale down, curl on your exhales, inhale down. One more time. All right, so now we're gonna leave the head on the floor and we're gonna try to lift the hips a little bit. So leaving this one leg up on top, we're gonna work just with the bottom leg. We're gonna see if we can scoop the pelvis up and lift it, and then bring it back down. So we're gonna feel a lot of work with the hamstrings and the glutes. If you get a cramp in your hamstrings, straighten out your leg, jiggle it out a little bit, and then try again. We're gonna see if we can do this 4 times. So lift it up, and coming back down with control. Lift it up, and coming back down, nice and easy. 2 more, lift it up. Coming back down. Scooping up. Oh, and coming on back down. So we're gonna let that left leg return to the ground. I'm gonna windshield wiper mine a little bit. Oh, that feels so cool. And can you feel the difference between the right side and the left side? The left side might feel a little stretched out. The right hamstrings might feel quite active. Right glutes, a little warm and toasty. Oh goodness. All right, so we're gonna do that whole thing again, but on the other side. So bring the feet to the ground, so you've got that kind of constructive rest position for now. Put the opposite leg on top, so my right leg is up on top now, and I just wanna pause for a moment and feel it, and make any adjustments so that I'm not causing any trouble for my knee. Starting with the curls, we're gonna curl up, straight up the middle first. Coming back down, we're gonna do the twist. Okay, to the right, or whatever is the leg that's on top. So curl it up, and then twist. And that's the movement. Inhale down, exhale, curl. Inhale down, exhale, twist. 2 more times with each one. Try to keep your head pressed into your hands, so you're forced to make the abdominals do the work. Good. So now, letting your head go, bringing your legs in so that you can get that little bit of lift. We're going to try to do these little baby one-legged bridges again. So we're going to lift the hips up and bring them back down. Lift the hips up. Bring them back down. Oh, again, if you get a little cramp in your hamstrings, just straighten it out. Try again. Lift them up. Coming back down. 2 more to go. Lift them up. Bring it back down with control. And 1 more time. Lift up. Coming back down. Return your legs to the floor. Stretch yourself out as you like. All right, so we've done a little bit of work for the glutes and the hamstrings. We've done a little bit of work for the core. So now we're going to do a little bit of work for our hip flexors. Now, the movement that we're going to do is like a half happy baby, or like lunging upside down. So if you have tight hip flexors, you're probably going to be okay doing this with your pelvis resting on the floor. But if your hip flexors are a little bit more forgiving, it might be helpful to elevate the hips a little bit. So I'm going to take the blanket that we had earlier and fold it in the same way. I'm just going to put that right underneath my pelvis to give myself just a little bit of a lift. It's just an inch or so. And I want that right under my sacrum so that it's not interfering too much with my low back. Now, I'm going to start with my left leg out straight. So the left leg is straight, and it sort of drops over the edge of the blanket a little bit. So I get a little tiny bit more hip flexor stretch. But then I'm going to bring this right leg into this half happy baby. Now, if that's too much, hold it onto the foot. You can hold onto the ankle, or just grab the back of the thigh with both hands and hold that way. So the right leg for me is in this half happy baby shape. The left leg, I'm reaching out through the front of that hip and letting that hip flexor get a good long stretch. And then the blanket is just helping me with a little bit of elevation. So my leg has to drop a little bit further into that hip flexor stretch. And again, if that's problematic, just don't elevate your hips. Just stay right on the floor. I'm going to do this for about 3 more breaths. Okay, so we're going to let go of the leg that we're holding on to. We're going to put that guy down on the ground nice and slow. And then the other leg, we're going to draw in nice and slow. So now I'm sort of in that constructive rest / bridge pose with both feet. My hips are still resting on the blanket though. But you can just notice if any change is evident between your right hip flexor and your left, or just the way it feels in your body. So when you're ready, we're going to extend out the opposite leg. So for me, that's the right leg. And then I'm bringing my left foot into this half happy baby shape. And for the right side for me is a little tighter, so I could almost probably do this without the blanket. Just stretching out the front of the hip, breathing nice and deep. Good. We're going to take a few more breaths. So 2 more. All right, so when your exhale finds you, let go of your half happy baby leg and really slowly put that guy on the floor first. And then gently, you could even drag the foot, just drag the hip flexor foot back into place. And then we can go ahead and slip the blanket out from under the hips. And then you can do some little windshield wipers with the legs. Now we're going to come back to our legs in a few moments, but let's do a little bit of shoulder work first. And then we'll kind of let the shoulder work guide us in to some leg work. So if you've got a strap or whatever you're going to use as a strap, put that nearby so you know where it is and it's easy to grab it. And then we'll get to this shoulder work. So we're going to start with the legs in this constructive rest position. So just a kind of loose feet resting on the floor position. You're going to take the hands and kind of face them in at your hips so that your arms are beside you or beside your torso. The pinky fingers are down, the thumbs point up toward the ceiling, and the palms face the hips. So that's the starting position. We're going to reach down through the arms, almost like you're trying to grab your ankles, and then keep reaching through the arms as you pick the arms all the way up. You're going to bring them all the way up toward the ceiling, and then keep reaching through the arms, a little stretch all the way to the point where you can't go any further over your head or until your thumbs touch the floor. So then stretch and come all the way back up. So reaching through the range of motion all the way back till the pinky fingers touch the ground. And notice the muscles in the arms and shoulders as you're doing this. So we reach, as you lift your arms, can you feel your biceps kind of firing up? And then as you bring the arms overhead, you're going to feel the triceps kick on to stabilize and work the arms. Then you can feel how the muscles in the arms and shoulders kind of give over to each other as you move your arms through this range of motion. So we're just going to do it twice more. Just bringing the hands up and over, all the way overhead, stretching through the arms the whole way, and then all the way back to the hips. Stretching through the arms the whole way. Nice smooth movement, just an arcing up and over. One more time. Okay, when we get to the bottom, we're going to pause there, let the arms relax for a moment, and then just feel kind of the general sense that you have with your arms and shoulders. So we're going to bring the arms basically just straight up over so that they're next to the chest, or about chest height if you were standing up, but they're pointing toward the ceiling. Then you're going to grab elbows. Now, when you did that, one arm wound up closer to your face and one arm's a little farther away. So in my case, my right arm is closer to my face. So this is the arm I'm going to work with first in a moment, but we'll get there. But just look at your arms, make a note of that. That's the arm you're going to work with. So we're going to push the elbows up, away from the chest, and draw the arms overhead as far as you can go. And then come all the way back. Keep pushing through the elbows. So the elbow pushes away, coming over the head, and coming back to chest height. We're going to do that one more time. Elbow pushes away. Can you feel how there's a lot less leverage working against this movement? With the elbows bent, it's a little easier than it was when the arm was straight. So now you're going to grab hold of the upper arm of that arm that was closest to you. You're going to pull that over. So in my case, I'm pulling my right arm to the left. And as I do that, I'm trying to pull my right shoulder blade down to the ground by rolling my back as close to the floor as I can possibly get it. So my shoulder blade's not moving much, but that action of trying to bring it back down engages and stretches some very particular muscles in the shoulder girdle. So just noticing how that impacts you. 2 more breaths here. Now this same shoulder is going to go on top. So I'm going to wind up facing away from you because I'm going to roll onto my left side. So once I'm laying on my left side, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to support my head first of all. So I'm going to use the blanket for that. And then second, I'm going to make sure that I can do a full circular range of motion with my arm over my head without running into the furniture. Now, at the point where the arm is about chest height, reaching away from the chest, this is a very dicey point because there's a lot of nerves in the shoulder. And so you can either come straight back across, or as you sweep your hand down towards your hip, just be a little more gentle with it, because that's the place where we can kind of get a little pinchier with nerves around the collarbone and the shoulder blade. All right, so we're going to reach the arm straight out in front of us, in my case the right arm, and that arm is going to go over my head as I stretch around in a half circle, and then really gently I just bring it on back, okay? So we'll do 4 more of those, reaching out and coming back. And try to stretch through the whole range of motion if you can. 2 more. Last one. Now we're going to go kind of halfway into this. We're going to turn this into a twist. So we're just going to come all the way around with that right shoulder, or whatever shoulder it is for you. I'm going to move my head support out, but you might just adjust yours. And now what I've got is a spinal twist. So my shoulders are laying on the ground, my arms extended, and then I'm going to take my top leg and just kind of wrap it around my bottom leg a little bit, just to keep the hips moving over towards that opposite side. You can do as you like with your head, either turning to the right or the left, or right in the middle would work too. And then we're just going to hold this shape for a little bit. we're going to turn this into the strap stretches for the leg. So in my case, my right leg is up on top of the twist here, so I'm going to do my right leg first. So I'm going to roll out of the twist back onto my back, hugging that right leg in toward me. I'm going to spin my foot while I try to figure out where I left my strap. There it is. So spin your foot in circles, and then circle it the opposite way after a bit. And then point and flex with your foot, and I might be close to getting off your screen, but hopefully I'm okay. All right, so we're gonna start with straight up the middle. So my strap has a loop, so I put the loop over my foot, and then I can put my hand through the loop. You could also, if your strap is long enough, thread it up underneath your back, so you don't even have to hold it with your hands. If you have arthritis and you can get your elbow in there, you can actually hold on or with the forearm or with the elbow. Just make the loop bigger. If you've got a strap, you can do that. You may have to tie a knot in a scarf or something. Okay, so then once you're here, you can pivot the leg. So if you pivot the leg so you have more of an internal rotation, the toes point a little more towards the opposite side shoulder, that's gonna stretch a different portion of the hamstrings than if you rotate the leg so the toes point out a little bit. So that's one option. You can pull the foot down and push up through the heel. You can bend the knee a little bit and then re-straighten the leg. You can let the leg go farther away from you to get a little less spicy. The opposite leg and hip should be pretty much relaxed. Like, you know, more or less completely relaxed. If you're jerking that leg up off the floor, you could probably back off a little bit. We're gonna stay with this guy for like about 6 or 7 more breaths. Nice deep and smooth breaths if you can. Okay, so taking a big breath, we're going to take the leg out to the side. So this is a little spicier for the inner thigh. Now I have a blanket, my blanket tucked up underneath my hip, and that gives me just that little tiny bit of support. You could also put a block or a pillow under there if you want a bigger amount of support. I like having a little bit of support there because this area is so delicate. The groin is on one side, the knee is on the other side of this adductor, and so it's nice to be kind to it. Taking nice deep breaths. You can bend your knee. Again, you can do a little bit of rotation to kind of change where the intensity lives. I don't have as much rotation with this pose as I do with the last one. And again, we're going to stay for about a minute. That's kind of around 8 or 10 breaths. Sunshine in my eyeballs makes me happy. Yogis, we're going to do 2 more big breaths. Ooh, Okay, so you're going to bring that leg all the way back. I like to bend the knee slightly when I do that. And then we're going to set the strap aside for now because we'll come back to it. I'm going to take this leg down to the ground nice and easy. I'm going to bring the other leg up to it. And then I'm going to take a moment to do some little windshield wipers with the legs. Now we're going to take that entire journey on the opposite side. It was a long journey, yogis. Hopefully that'll be all right. Oh, goodness. All right, so leaving the legs in this constructive rest position. Bringing the arms up, we're going to grab the elbows. And my right hand was in front last time, so now my left hand is in front. So reaching up through the elbows, we're going to bring the arms all the way overhead, stretch up overhead, and then come all the way back to as far as you can toward your chest. So just bringing the elbows up and away, stretching overhead, and then coming on back. Bringing the arms up and away, bringing them overhead, and coming on back. Now pausing right there, we're going to grab the upper arm, pull it across, and let that let that shoulder try to find its way back down to the floor. So the resistance of the arm being pulled sideways is being met with the intensity of trying to let that shoulder blade drop to the ground. 2 more breaths. Okay, so now we're going with that shoulder. We're going to roll to the side. So now my left arm is on top. I'm going to take my blanket back underneath my head, so I've got a little head support. I just want to double check that I can make this whole range of motion without causing any trouble. And now I can move really smoothly. So reaching out through the arm, over the head, stretching all the way to the point where you can feel that chest muscle stretch, and then soften up from there as you come back around. Two more times. Okay, so again, this last one is going to turn us into a twist. So as I come over, I'm letting my whole upper back follow me. So now I've got my shoulders on the ground. I'm reaching out nice and long through my left arm. I'm gonna wrap my left leg around my right leg and then allow the body to kind of sink in and settle. And we'll stay here for a while and breathe. Two more breaths, yogis. Now we're going to come back to the center. You're going to hold on to that leg that's on the top there. Let the other leg rest. Spin your foot in circles. Go the other direction. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry about that. And then point and flex the foot a bit. right, so we're gonna take our strap, or strap equivalent, put it over your foot, and then find your way into that hamstring stretch at the amount that seems right and appropriate for you. We'll stay with this guy for a bit. So again, hopefully this opposite leg is nicely relaxed on the floor. We're hanging out okay. So we're going to take 2 more breaths. And then with that exhale, we're going out to the side. And again, you can add some extra support there so we can hang out with this guy for a bit. Out there, yogis. We just got a few more breaths to go. So one more. Whew. And then we're coming on back. You're going to bend your knee, slip the strap off. Nice and easy now. Take the leg to the ground. Join it with the other leg, and then take a moment. You can do some little windshield wipers. You can stretch the legs all the way out straight. Give yourself a big stretch. And then eventually we're going to come to a seated position. So you can take your time coming to there if you would like. Along the way, you could like get yourself a drink or a snack or something. But barring that, just join me in a seated position when you're ready. Now, for many of us, sitting cross-legged on the floor is going to be best accomplished by sitting on the edge of that blanket. So, if you still have your blanket handy, you could take it and sit up on the edge of it. And when you sit on the blanket, rather than sitting on it so that you're kind of near the back of the blanket, you're actually going to slide right to the front edge. That just kind of lifts the back of the pelvis. Generally, this will slope your knees down a little bit and make it a little bit more easy for the pelvis and the spine to align correctly, so you don't have to hold with a grip with your abdominals. So we're going to let the head drop down, and when you let the head drop down so that the chin gets closer to your breastbone, just notice if you sort of lean into it. See if you can keep your spine more or less neutral. And then the movement of the head and neck needs to align with what's appropriate for you. What I am going to do is my head around until I feel on one side this little stretch through the front side. Now, if there's pinching on the other bottom side, the curvy or curled up side of your neck, there's a couple of things you can try. You can get the shoulder blade out of the way a little bit. Sometimes that can cause trouble. Or you can lift the head a little bit so it's not quite so coiled towards the shoulder. You may need like a little bit more of a diagonal angle, a little less of a side bend. Okay, so we're just gonna look and see if we can feel a little pressure, a little tension between the collarbone and this little ridge right here on the skull, right behind the ear. You can even reach the arm out a bit. Sometimes that helps to let you draw your collarbone wider. Try to keep the other shoulder relaxed. Sometimes I find mine will try to lift up like it's trying to help. So this is one of the muscles that stabilizes the skull on the neck. So we're just trying to give it a little release. So I'm going to shake it out a little, and then I'm going to let my head go the opposite. So I'm letting it roll a little bit towards the front diagonal, and then I'm going to work with this muscle that attaches to the very back of the occiput. So the occipital bone is the bone that's in the back of the skull. At the very bottom of the occipital bone, there's kind of a ridgy space on both the left and the right. So the muscle that we're stretching attaches right to that little ridge area, and then it goes to the shoulder blade. So we're going to pull the shoulder blade down and take the right side over to the left a little bit. Again, being mindful of any pinching or anything that might be going on the opposite side. Just adjust the head so that that's not the case. Well, good morning. Taking 2 more breaths. All right, I'm going to bring my arm back first so that the shoulder blade's a little looser, and then I'm going to gently let my head sort of float up to the center. Once it gets here, I like to move it in a kind of rhythmic fashion until I feel things kind of relax. Now, when I check in, this shoulder feels like it's lower than this shoulder, so that is usually more pleasant to me. So I'm inclined to do the other side. What are you doing, Stealth Weasel? So I'm going to drop my chin. I'm going to kind of roll my head around my shoulder until I feel that stretch. That's the method that works good for me. Again, for you, you might need to keep the head more elevated, so you're just going to switch it up a little bit. I try to do these stretches like slightly different ways, sometimes with movement, sometimes with stillness, just to keep my muscles on their toes a little bit, if that's the right turn of phrase. Muscles can get used to things we do habitually, so as long as we're not too habitual, it works out. So I've got just a little bit of pressure there, and I'm taking 2 more breaths. Again, we want to be really respectful of the neck. Now I'm going to take my head the opposite way. So I'm going to take this left occiput towards my right diagonal, like towards my right knee, and then I'm going to pull my left shoulder blade down away from that so that I get that intensity, that little stretch in that levator scapulae muscle. So the neck has a lot of nerves, the carotid artery, the jugular, all kinds of things going on in the neck. So be kind. If there's anything that feels numb or tingly or pinchy, avoid those things, especially avoid pain. Generally speaking, pain is the way the body says, stop doing that, please. Okay, so 1 more breath here for me. And then you may feel like you need to hold it a little bit longer, that's fine. And then you're going to kind of gently, when you're ready, float your head back up to the center. And then kind of check in and see how that went. So, I like having that little release of those 2 sets of muscles. I almost always have one set that's a little tighter than the other, because I like to sleep on one side more than the other. I think that usually seems to be the issue there. But you know, if that's not your jam, you can do something different. Now we're gonna do some little cat-cows. So I'm gonna slide off my blanket so that I have a little bit more room. You can do these on all fours if you want to. I'm gonna kind of do them with like a loose butterfly shape. So I'm gonna bring my pelvis forward and then lift through the heart and kind of pull the collarbones wide to create that cobra or cow shape, and then rock back round through the back. I'm letting my pelvis drop back and the navel drop in to create that rounded back shape. So sometimes I like doing these seated, sometimes I like doing them kneeling, so you can do it either way. Again, I like to kind of shake it up a little bit and not do the same thing every single time. And I sometimes find when I do them these different ways, I find different places that are tender or tight. Different kind of like slightly different little areas of the muscle that I may not pay attention to every day. Okay, so now we're going to sort of move. It's more directed from the rib cage, and the pelvis will go along for the ride. So first, when you get to the center, we're going to just try to move the rib cage side to side. See if you can isolate that as a rib cage movement. If the middle of your back is really tight, this movement is going to be very tiny, which it very much is for me, because that is where I carry all of my tension and stress. So, but we're going to try to get some movement going in there. So we're going to send the ribs over to the right side or the left, go forward, go to the opposite side, the left, wrap around the back. So my pelvis is going to move a little bit as I do this, but I'm mostly trying to get that rib cage to move. So there's a little bit of isolation to the middle of my back. Now when I get to the front next time, I'm going to go around the opposite direction. And kind of feeling, and you might become really aware of muscles in your back that you don't connect to very often. So I'm going to do one more circle here. So that work is kind of tricky, but we're going to take the legs out kind of wide, and they don't have to be all the way wide as you can go, and you can bend the knees even a little bit to kind of get yourself a little grip, and you're welcome to sit back onto your blanket. We're just going to spin, I call this the washing machine, so we're spinning the ribs in a twist, side to side, side to side, side to side. And then you're going to pick a side and hold the twist going that way. Now, if I twist a lot, I can feel how my pelvis helps because this sit bone lifts up off the floor. So I'm gonna let myself twist just to the point where my spine is done and not involve the pelvis too much. I'm gonna try to keep my sit bones mostly level. I'm not doing a death grip to hold my sit bone down. I'm just letting it down, stay down. Not twisting quite so much. Now, holding this twist, we're gonna play with our shoulder blades. So the lower part of the spine, we're going to try to keep steady. And then we're going to take the, I'm twisting to my left, so depending on which way you're twisting. So if you're twisting to your right, you're going to take your right shoulder blade forward. I'm twisting to my left, so I'm taking my right shoulder blade forward and my left shoulder blade down and in, and then just releasing that shape. Okay, so if you're twisting right, left shoulder blade forward. So right shoulder blade forward, left shoulder blade down and in, or opposite of that. The shoulder blade that's closest to the middle, like my inner thighs, that one's going forward. The shoulder blade that's closest to my back, that one's going in. And then let it go. Hopefully I'm at least a little bit clear with one of those instructions. Moving the shoulder blades forward and back, let it go. And then one more time, forward and back, let it go. All right, so same idea, right? So we're trying to free up some space in that middle region in our back. Just notice if it's pleasant or unpleasant when you come back to the center. I'm jiggling my shoulder blades back and forth. I'm kind of pushing them back and pushing them forward by just swinging my arms. And then we're going to come back to our little friend, the washing machine, when you're ready. And then you're going to go the opposite direction and just pause. So again, if your pelvis is coming off the floor, just notice that. Send it back down mostly. Sit up tall and just let your spine twist however much it twists. So my lower back, I'm going to try to hold that stable and then just moving my shoulder blades. So now my left shoulder blade is going to go forward and my right shoulder blade is going to go down. So it's going to be whatever you did last time, the opposite. So shoulder blade forward and then other one down. My right shoulder blade is tighter. Oh, it feels amazing. And intense. Release, squish them into place, release, squish them into place, release. We're going to do that twice more. Ooh. Sort of exhale and squish them down and then inhale on the release. And then let it go. Come back to the center. Jiggle your shoulder blades around. Oh. All right, we got one more thing to do, and that's a forward bend. Now, you can keep your legs out wide and forward bend right down the center. You can bend your knees and come to a butterfly shape and forward bend that way, or you can bring your legs closer together and forward bend straight down the center of your legs. Whichever one of those you think is the best one for you. So I'm going for the wide shape, but not super wide, like a little bit conservative wide. And then folding forward. You've got some pillows or some yoga blocks. You can give yourself a little arm rest, a place to lean into. Now, there's a thought out there in the yoga world that forward bends help us connect to our inner self. They help us go inward, or calm the nervous system. You might like. Check it out. See what's true for you. Is that true for you? Does this feel calming and centering, or does it feel the opposite? Or maybe nothing at all. I'm willing to accept that that's a possibility as well. We're going to hold it for like around 3 or 4 more breaths. Inhale finds you can come all the way up, and believe it or not, you guys, we've been working almost for an hour, so it's time for Shavasana. I know, what happened? So you could do a regular Shavasana, or you could do, like, if you've got a wall space, you could put your legs up the wall, or if you've got a couch nearby, you could put your butt kind of over next to the couch and throw your legs up on the couch. It's a really nice inversion. Sometimes I have a yoga teacher that refers to that when it's done over a chair as instant Maui, an instant Hawaiian vacation. I don't know if I would go that far, but it's nice. And then you can also just kind of build up like some pillows and put your legs up on some pillows so you can get a little bit of an inverted shape if you like. Otherwise, Shavasana is delightful. So, with whatever support you like. Now, I love a little bit of head support, and one of my favorite things to do for my neck right now is this, and this involves using my arm muscles, so that's bonus points. So I take a blanket, put it under my head, and then I pick my head up with my hands, and then just roll the blanket. So pull one side so the head rolls to the right, and then pull the other side so the head rolls to the left. And I'm really trying to let all my neck muscles relax, and just do this with my hands. I love it. It feels so nice. It's not a massage, but it's pretty delightful. And then you're just going to put your head back down when you've finished to your heart's content. And let your body relax. for the nervous system. The legs elevated gives us a little extra boost because inversions help lower the blood pressure, but also the amount of stress hormone that's in our bloodstream. I'm not sure if we completely understand the mechanism as to why that is yet, but it does seem to be true more often than not. So giving yourself a chance to put your legs up helps all kinds of physical things, but may also help with allowing your body to get a little bit of a break from some of the stress hormones that are produced by the adrenal glands. So I don't know if there's any reason that you have lately to stress out, but maybe. So that can be useful. And just allowing the body to relax completely is also very helpful in that regard. So we allow the body to integrate the movement that we've done and all the information we've sent to the brain from the fascia. Allow the heart rate to slow and the breathing rate to slow. Let your face relax and your eyes grow a little kinder. Let your jaw relax and your lips get softer. Yogis, without moving yet, just notice your breath again. We're going to take a nice big breath. Ow! We're going to take a big breath. Let go with a sigh. Stretch out through your arms and your legs. Maybe little bananas to each side. Some little wrist and ankle movement, finger and toe movement. If you want to stay longer, you're at your house. You can do what you want. But if you're of a mind to go do other things, you can bring yourself to a seated position. We're going to take a nice big breath together. Big inhale. Big deep sigh. Namaste, yogis. Thank you for joining me.